It's just come on, it's working now on City Wireless 5.
Mine is
On 5?
We all good?
Yeah.
We can go.
Go.
Yeah, I'm still
I'm good to
offline.
Okay, I can see that Mr. Fraser is back from his holiday and Councillor Hathaway is fully refreshed, and
Yes.
it's going to be a lengthy agenda today, so I'll just remind everybody that let's try to stick to task because this is going to be going on for some time. Before I call for the adoption of today's agenda, Madam Clerk, we have a couple of additions or deletions.
Yes, we have one deletion through the chair, 5.1, development variance permit 191. The applicant has withdrawn their application, so we can remove that. And I believe Councillor Southcott, you had an email from Ken McLeish regarding first responders. Did you want that included in today's agenda? So if I could suggest through the chair that that become 4.3 under correspondence. And then I believe Councillor Leishman, you had a request, unfinished business, to talk about the ICSP implementation.
Yes, please.
So we're looking at 6.3 for that through the chair, if the committee agrees. Thank you.
6.3 in the top of what?
The ICSP implementation. And those are the only changes I'm aware of through the chair. I should mention under the 6.2, the plastic bags, proposed ban on single-use plastic bags. Councillor Skatsheim did circulate electronically some information that she got from Surfrider, and it appears that not all of it got posted on the agenda notes, so I do have paper copies of the information from Surfrider, but you also did get it emailed to you, so I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to see it.
Very good, thank you, Madam Clerk. Do I hear any further additions or trouble anywhere? No, hearing none. I'd like to call for the adoption of today's agenda.
So moved.
The whole meeting, Tuesday, March 1st, 2016, at 3:35 p.m. And moved by Mayor Formosa, seconded by Councillor Hathaway. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you very much. So we will move to the adoption of the minutes of our regular committee of the whole meeting held on February 16, 2016. Any comments? Any problems? Councillor Brewer?
Yeah, just under community engagement reports, where it describes what I reported on, it says that there are no plans to log Valentine Mountain, but what IT said was there are no immediate plans to log Valentine Mountain.
Thanks for that clarification. Did we get that?
I'll make that noted. Yeah, thank you.
And then one further comment under, when we update the action list items in the minutes, I'm wondering if, you know, it references item 31, for example, but we don't know what that is, and I suspect the item reference numbers
Change from week to week.
change. So if there could be a little descriptor when you do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brewer. Appreciate it. Anything further? Hearing none. Moved by Councillor Leishman, seconded by Councillor Skatsheim. All in favor? Thank you very much. Moving along, we move straight to delegations, and we call upon Staff Sergeant Rod Reed, Oliver RCMP Detachment Commander, regarding year-end statistics and annual performance plan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Perhaps we should amend the chairs to be more sidearm.
Yeah, you know, the arms don't really work for us. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present our basically a year-end in review. I certainly heard you, Mr. Palm, that stay on track, so I'll be very quick. Last year, Powell River RCMP responded to 5,760 calls. That's fairly equivalent to 2014, where that was 5,783, and in 2013 it's 5,739. So not much has changed the last 3 years. We responded to pretty much the same amount of calls. Crime rates in general, for the crimes that we kind of use to take the pulse of the community, a barometer of how we're doing in the crime in town. Regionally, break and enters were down 32%. Theft under $5,000 were down 25%. Shoplifting rate was up 9.5%. overall, the violent crime in the area was up 4%, and property crime was down 8%, and that's what we're seeing regionally in our Vancouver Island district. So we're not out of the ordinary. Our traffic offenses were up 28%, and I know when I reported the regional district, we're attributing some of that to the fact that the immediate roadside prohibition program has been around for a number of years now. That's kind of your first kick of the cat of impaired driving before you go to criminal court. Well, lots of people have gone through that now and have had their one freebie, at least a freebie, but gone through the administration process, and now it reverts back to criminal. Collisions in the region were down 13%. We're very happy with that number. We've been trying for 4 years to get collisions to stop rising. This is the first year that we actually saw a reduction in that. Overall, the detachment makeup, we continue to have 18 municipally funded positions, 7 provincial funded, and 1 First Nations policing funded by the feds and the province. Overall, our detachment ran at less than 100% last year, and at times we were 4 members down, which equates roughly to 25%. Our current status is we've had the arrival of 2 supervisors and 1 general duty investigator, so we're only down 1 now, which is none too soon, quite frankly. And I do have to say that there is no word from the government on the 19th position that was approved at your last Finance Committee meeting. My plans are that we may be filling that before that's signed, but that's not an issue for the city. That's for me. A little bit of our work that we undertook last year. I'm very proud to talk about the search and rescue operation where the 2-year-old girl was found. Took us any longer. It was suggested that perhaps that would have been a recovery, not a rescue, so we're very proud that was a rescue. I got a kudos off to the RCMP who you contract for. It was a matter of a call that we get bodies over here from the island, we get a helicopter at the snap of a finger, and everything worked absolutely brilliant. And I also have to hats off to our local sergeant, they're amazing. We had a member who has been named to Team Alexa. Team Alexa was created when Alexa Millar, I believe her name was killed by an impaired driver. So if a member conducts a certain amount of impaired driving investigations a year, he's appointed to this team. I have to say that our member had over 70 impaired investigations last year, which is one of the tops in the province, and that's going up against traffic members where 100% of their duties are dedicated to strictly traffic enforcing impaired driving. So hats off to him. As well, our members put in over 100 volunteer hours in community events. When you see a member run at surge, 9 times out of 10, he's not working and he's not getting paid either. So that's I'm pretty proud of the guys for that. We undertook an undercover operation where we took down a Lower Mainland drug line that was setting up in town. Again, this project was totally funded by our district headquarters. It did not cost, however, anything, so that's another benefit that you get from having the RCMP as your key service. One last one, we dismantled an identity theft and fraud operation which encompassed crimes throughout the Lower Mainland, Vancouver Island, and we laid in excess of 50 charges on one individual, and that's still for the courts. Of course, with the good comes the bad. We did investigate a murder suicide this year, and that was on Bliss Landing. And we continue to investigate the suspicious death of the body that was found down by Powell River. So every year we set priorities for upcoming year where we want to focus our proactive time. We're not responding to calls for service. There is a certain amount of time that we have that we can undertake other initiatives to try and affect crimes in certain areas. Last year we focused on road safety, crime reduction, youth, domestic violence. There was a slam-in component as well as an attempt to enhance rural policing. And get the handouts where you under each of those, there's different initiatives. I don't think I have to address the specifics, but those are objectives. Those don't normally change, those overarching objectives. I've completed 90% of my consultations, and those still seem to be the wider topic where people want to see us focus our efforts. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them at this time. If you have any comments or suggestions where forget these windows talk. Or where would you like to see us focus our efforts on in the upcoming year? Certainly open to suggestions.
Thank you for that thorough report, Sergeant. Council, any questions on anyone's mind? Yes, Mayor Formosa.
Thank you very much. Just wondering if we managed to get our portable speed sign up and about and around, and if yes, how's it doing? If no, where are we at?
We have it. We're struggling with the volunteers right now. So we'll train the volunteers up on that as they show the desire, and then we'll get out there. If not, I have also approached some other community groups that during these consultations have set or raised a concern about speeding, and that we would certainly lend that board up to community groups that they could deploy themselves outside of the city watch program. But it has not been deployed as of yet.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping through the chair that might rejuvenate some activity or interest with the volunteers. You know, give them a specific task.
Yes, I agree, and that will certainly be a focus as we go forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Hathaway?
Thanks. So just further to that, I can say that in a recent correspondence, the Wildwood ratepayers kind of put themselves forward as volunteers, probably not for the entire community, maybe for their own area, but ratepayers associations might be a good place to start for people to staff those signs, or even just the signs out there by themselves. I mean, they seem to be a deterrent.
Yeah, my concern is the sign is $10,000, so I don't know if that can be unmanned. I would need to see, because we'd also I would mind mounting it at the complex, but there again, I'm concerned about vandalism and stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. But they are really a good deterrent, and I still get complaints about speeding all the time.
And Wildwood was one of the groups I addressed, and absolutely hacked it out there that they could use that sign if they so wish.
Good. And I could just comment too further that we continue to meet on a regular basis, and when I found out that the Auditor General for local government was going around doing interviewing councils to see how knowledgeable they were about their contract with the RCMP, I did a lot of studying. They haven't been to see me yet, but I'm ready if they are. So.
Yeah, so council directly doesn't get addressed every quarter like a lot do, but we certainly meet with the Public Safety Board, for lack of a better word. If you'd rather be addressed, certainly let me know and you can be addressed quarterly.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Mr. Fraser, you have a question?
Through the chair, Staff Sergeant, is it correct that your stats don't show an incident if mental health is determined to be the underlying cause?
I brought that up at the Finance Committee when I asked for an extra member, and I didn't update those stats for this. They are what they are. They're extremely draining on our...
But the RCMP in general don't put mental health issues on the books as part of caseload, right?
No, absolutely not.
Which
it would be
part of your actual caseload.
It would be part of the 5,760 files, but it's not a stat that's recorded by Stats Canada, which means if we did it, we don't get credit for it, and it didn't happen.
And it's a growing part of your workload.
It is. They just measure criminal code offenses.
Thank you.
And Sergeant, just a couple of quick questions. One is on the having been part in the party program recently. I just want to thank your detachment for all your fine work that you put into that event. It goes a long way with our youth and our community. The impaired driving stats here, how does that compare on a per capita basis with other jurisdictions?
I
have any idea?
I can't give you a comparison. I know when we go looking though, we find it, so, we made a lot of improvements, but there's certainly more work to be done there, and again, it'll be a focus upcoming next year.
And just one further question. Your visitors from outside of our community that come here to police in the region and the area, how often does that take place, and are they charged with handing out a number of tickets when they're in here as opposed to you guys doing a lot of that work, or how does that all work?
I can't talk for other units,
Partnership
whether
work.
they have goals and targets to meet. But that is certainly their job. This is part of their area. They're funded provincially, so that's why they come over here. And yeah, 100% of their job is traffic enforcement.
And how many times a year do they come?
It all depends on budgets, but they, on average, it's every second month they show up.
Mayor Formosa?
Yeah, just on that, that issue of the folks that come from the island for traffic control. Council's aware that local traffic speeding tickets come back to us as revenue. When the island group comes over and pass out speeding tickets, etc., do we receive those as well, or do they end up in their?
Oh, I believe it's wherever you write on that ticket, what municipality you write that ticket.
So we also are the recipients of
That's right.
those people's misfortune. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Formosa. Councillor Selcott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the very last item on your summary, what is a UTV that's going to be provided for sale?
Oh, sorry, that's a utility train vehicle. Savory, as I think you're aware, is very narrow on their roads. Right now we have a 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup over there that we're using as a police vehicle. So we'll put a business case forward to see if we can't switch that out to something that's way more applicable to the island. Certainly that's all provincially funded and would never come off of the city budget.
One more question. With respect to mental health, which is becoming a greater fiscal burden to your service, has there been any consideration given to employing the provincial service, since mental health is by definition a medical concern? Has there been any consideration given in your committee to employing the resources of the province that are do exist here in our
in
city?
a capacity as like a CAR 54 in our mainland, where there's a member and a mental health practitioner going to these calls together?
Not exactly. I'm thinking really of in terms of my previous experience in Vancouver, where I did work for 10 years. And I know the Vancouver City Police do utilize BC Ambulance a lot more than is utilized here. Now, I've never really had a problem with that, because I heard a previous corporal refer to your mental health clients as regulars. And I realized at that point that people who were getting what they need, at that point I realized it didn't really matter to me who that service came from. But becoming more concerned for fiscal responsibility, and I don't think I'm splitting hairs. The responsibility for medical emergency service really does lie with the province, and I haven't really given that much thought, more than what I just mentioned, but now I'm thinking in terms of fiscal responsibility for our municipality.
Well, I can say that under an apprehension, we probably wouldn't think of anybody else who would transport, because they're in our custody, and we have to, there's parameters on the Mental Health Act where we have to deliver that person to a hospital, and we have to stay there until a doctor assesses that person. Certainly there's always availability. If it's not an apprehension, it's voluntary committal. There's no reason why we couldn't phone BC Ambulance Service for transporting those.
I know it's kind of a long shot in thinking, but anyway, it's all mine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I do very much appreciate what you and your group of fine officers provide here, from my standpoint here and also my day job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Southcott. And Mayor Formosa, closing comments?
Yeah, just so that folks understand, I don't know if it was clear there, when the RCMP take a mental health person, say, into emergency, they actually have to stay until they're released. So a lot of times you'll see the police just hanging out at the emergency room. That's because there's somebody under the Mental Health Act that they've delivered, and they can't leave until they
No, that's right.
release.
In the past, when they weren't violent and deemed not a threat, we could leave.
No, not anymore. So they have to stay, just so you all know. So that officer's out of service until.
Who's got the paperwork done, too?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant Weed, for maintaining our safety in this fine community of ours. We appreciate it greatly.
Thank you very much.
And moving along on our agenda, item 3.2, we have Allison Tapley and Janet Newberry, Vancouver Island University, regarding results of research project illuminating new economic possibilities, and I want to hear all about it. Come forward.
Oh, no.
Do you have one?
Here, we've got
Is that the one we have?
Oh, we have an extra one here. Oh, we
What
don't.
about here?
We're good.
It was the same thing. That's all the hospital received.
So, yeah.
here, they receive them.
Sure.
When you're
Wait till they release them.
Thank you. for the
Okay, I
opportunity.
think we're ready to begin.
Thanks. I'm Janet Newberry, this is Allison Tapley, and we're two of the research team members from this project that was on Vancouver Island University. The council and mayor have already seen the report, so we're just going to go through some brief items that might be relevant for you.
So the Illuminating New Economic Possibilities springs from a body of work in this community that's taken place over 5 or 6 years now, beginning with the Power Diversity Initiative's film Defining Diversity Creating Community, which many of you have probably seen. They went on to partner with VIU and develop a 2-day course that, when it was piloted, really sparked a lot more conversation between people that were previously of different mindsets around what should be happening in our town. And so based on that, we did a project funded by Vancouver Foundation and a whole bunch of local organizations to deliver the course and then follow up with people over 2 years. And we did that 4 times and then brought people together in a learning circle. And in the midst of all that, there was this groundswell conference that kind of sparked a lot more conversation in the community about what our social and economic future could be like, especially if we all were working together. So the Groundswell Conference energies then led to a number of other initiatives. Some of you might have been on the audio walks this past summer. And then some of you may have read the Let the Sparks Fly interview series that was in Power River Living magazine. And then we got some money from VIU's scholarship folks to do a project about more the voice of the business community. And I'll let, oh, sorry, not yet.
Sorry.
So the main thing about all of those projects is that they spring from an asset-based community development approach. So instead of worrying about what is going wrong in Powell River, what's not happening, it's about what are our strengths, what do we care about, what can we expand. And they're based on a shared leadership model of seeing that folks like yourself in government as critical leaders, but also the leadership that resides in everybody to contribute to their community.
Nice. So we don't expect you to see this, but you do have this handout. And what we found from those earlier projects was there was a gap. There were a couple of gaps. So one was people could see their role in sort of co-creating the social reality that we live in, but when it came to the economy, people sort of felt like passive recipients of the economy rather than co-creators of it. And the other was the business community was really missing that voice. Was kind of, I mean, there were some participants, but it didn't show up very well in the earlier stages. And so for these later stages, we focused particularly on
hearing from the business community. And so that's what we're sharing today, is just what they had to say. So I'm going to go through sort of 5 of the key perspectives that came out of the circle that we had with the participants in the Let the Sparks Fly series, as well as everyone from the Chamber of Commerce was invited to participate in this conversation. And then Allison will follow from there with the actions. To be clear though, there was no effort to reach a uniform voice, so preserving the diversity of perspectives was really important in this, even within the business community. So it's not a single perspective here. The first is about being deliberate about the pace and nature of expansion, and we can send you these slides, you don't have to, if you can't read it all now. So people were not opposed to expansion, but people were very clear that they want to preserve what makes this place special. And one of the ways that this could happen, and rather than speaking about, focusing on nurturing small businesses or big industry, there was also this third perspective. Both of those were important, but this third perspective of cultivating medium level and green industries, as being a way that you could sort of slow down the pace. So you could still create really good jobs. So for example, with logging, rather than exporting raw logs right away, find ways to manufacture them here, creating good jobs, and then you're slowing down the rate of extraction as well. Looking outside our region, so it seems a little bit contradictory, but people were frank about the fact that a lot of either potential employees might come, or potential customers might come from outside the region, and also that people sometimes work remotely. So using the internet strategically and being strategic about this. So throughout the whole conversation was not doing it haphazardly, but making sure we do it in a way that can preserve the flavor of this place. And then keeping local capital moving locally. So it's not enough to just say, let's shop local and let's support our local businesses, but how do we support them to stay relevant, and how do we help people know what exists here, and how do we keep create the infrastructure and the mechanisms by which that local capital might be moving locally. So there were a few really concrete examples of that shared. And then related to that was not spreading ourselves too thin or too thick. So not spreading ourselves too thin obviously has to do with replicating services or businesses, and not spreading ourselves too thick has to do with still ensuring there's diversity. So striking that balance. So again, it comes back to being strategic.
So what we did with those 5 participants' perspectives was try applying them just to some of the bolder examples that came out in the session as ways to think through how they could be used for people that have to plan and make rules and bylaws and things like that. And so the first one we took hold of was farming and food production, because food security and local food security is a big issue in this town, both for the social and the economic well-being. And people have on their minds emergency preparedness, they have on their minds that we don't have enough local food supply. But some of the perspectives that were really strong were that there's no young farmers, and there's no land if you are a young farmer and want to farm. And so some bold initiatives that people are talking about in this community are expanding the resident attraction campaign to specifically target people that want that farming lifestyle, but also to figure out innovative ways to get land into their hands. Because most of us who are retiring see our land as an investment for our retirement, not as something we want to give away for people to farm. So it's a whole mindset that requires some leadership to change. The other bold initiative that came up was to expand the community forest dramatically, and to use that expansion as a way to resolve some of the issues around our forest that's in town, and to work with the Green Heart Foundation, but for that to be a working forest, and to have conversations that would probably be quite difficult to have, but possible to have in this community based on what we're hearing from people around how we could work together to have some of that forest preserved, but some of it creating jobs and creating the kind of capital that we've seen the community forest contribute back to our town. So this is a pretty bold initiative, but a pretty exciting one. The other thing people talked about a green industry is already, the train I think is leaving the station, and thanks a lot to some of the work that's done by this council, is around international education and education as being a primary economic driver in our community. And I think there's a lot of support behind that initiative. But part of what our research participants talked about was getting ahead of the curve in terms of planning and strategies to make sure that that big investment of money that will potentially come quite rapidly doesn't change the lifestyle here. And you've probably all been listening on the news to the concerns in Vancouver about affordable housing now, and it's really difficult when it's already late in the game to put rules in place that don't harm somebody. So the time is to get those rules in place now to figure out what the impact actually will be on our community at a number of levels, and then to be really strategic about how we advance that investment in our community while we celebrate it and welcome it. That kind of analysis is also important in terms of the impact on local businesses. And one of the interesting things is that the local businesses, regardless of how much of the economy they're supporting at any given time, are giving us that bumper of diversity, right? That can help us avoid sort of the boom bust that can happen with other industries. And so local businesses will also be affected by investment here, and some local businesses are already they're not staying open. I did a real quick scan just because someone told me a lot of businesses had closed in the last few years, and I said, I don't think that's true. I think the economy's doing very well, because I'm not really an economist nor a business person. And I could write down on a piece of paper 33 businesses that have closed in recent memory. So that's concerning. So I think it underscores that while we're really focused on what we can bring to this town and what's new, we need to pay attention to how we sustain what we already have, so that we're not just gaining and losing and gaining and losing, and not really moving forward. So a few ways people talked about doing that was helping local businesses do better research before they open, helping local businesses continue to keep their business relevant and serving the local needs, and then avoiding the products that are creating businesses that provide the products that we want locally, but don't just compete and put another business out to lunch, right? So that we're actually making progress. See, invitation to action? Oh, that's still me. So there you go. You can tell we didn't practice trying to get down under 10 minutes. According to our findings, City Council folks are doing a pretty good job. It's really nice to be seeing in this town these kind of comments. We have a good balance of committed mayor, interested in job creation, and a council that's listening. Because if anything, when you have such high levels of citizen engagement and people having really good ideas and a real willingness to participate, then listening and acting on those can be super important. I think that the other messages that we had was that people want to see each part of the community equally supported, that people are ready for investment in new opportunities, but they want them to be strategic so that they remain aligned with the quality of life that people value really strongly in this community. Because we're so interconnected, we actually found this picture because I think council's job is to see that big picture and be very strategic and forward thinking about how all of the initiatives are going to impact each other. Because if nobody's paying attention to that and kind of holding the shared vision, then one success can lead to another failure and we don't make the progress that we want. Now I'm done.
Okay, so in terms of shared vision, basically this is hard to see, but what all of these previous projects seem to point to is what Boyle and Klein call a moral economy, which is one in which people do not feel they have to sacrifice their values, harm human dignity, or compromise ecological health in order to achieve economic security. And we keep hearing time and time again, people live here because they love the community, and so how do we preserve that and have economic stability? And this is just a reminder, I guess, in thinking about next steps, that in order to build a moral economy, we need metrics that allow us to measure well-being in a different way. And these are from an article, we've got all kinds of references at the end that you can look at, that suggests that GDP was never designed as a measure of economic welfare, and GDP growth is no longer an appropriate national policy goal. It measures one aspect of community well-being, but not well-being as a whole. But there are all kinds of other metrics being developed and that already exist, and so there are ways to tap into that as well. That's it.
So we hope we finished under 10 minutes. There's time for you to ask us questions because all of this and more is in the handouts that you have in the reports.
Thank you very much, ladies, and Your Worship, you have a question.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a comment. Thank you very much for this. I think, it's pretty well on the money. Vast majority of what's there is what's actually happening in the community. some issues that you hit on, really hit home for me. I remember in the past, two councils back, one council back, two councils back, more or less the same, that, we really struggled and tried to come up with a mechanism to actually do an inventory in the community of our businesses, and to try somehow find a matrix that says our population is X, therefore it can support X amount of shoe stores, X amount of grocery stores, X amount of restaurants, X amount of hotels, X amount of car lots, and so the council, when it has to make a decision, can actually look and say, if the zoning's correct, the zoning's correct. You can't, you're just going to set yourself up for a lawsuit if council decides they don't want to allow a project where something is zoned correct. But if they're looking for rezoning, and that would be a perfect tool for council to say, oh, they want to build another drugstore, but it shows that the infiltration of this population is, ideal at, say, 8 drugstores, can handle 10, and we've got 12, and they want us to rezone at 13. That would be a huge tool for this community, for this council, for any council, for any community. And I forget the name, that's actually a name for this process and what it is that I'm talking about. And, so, you kind of speak to that when you talk about your local businesses, and, people have a passion, maybe they should do some more research and such prior to getting into business. And you're right, 32 businesses closed. You talk to people, and that could have been over the last 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. They forget because they're gone, and something else appears. And in many, many cases, it's an open economy, survival of the fittest. But in many cases, when you have we're finally growing a little bit. The dream is coming true. 7 years later, I say that for myself too. We're actually growing our population, and I can see that we're going to change our stars. It's happening. But, when I've watched this one open and this one close, because we're all feeding on exactly the same market and people. And, not only that, in business, with a stroke of a pen of a federal, provincial, or local government, you're put out of business. Just with the stroke of a pen. And it's a really volatile place, and it's becoming more and more volatile as governments look to be more, populist based, satisfying people, because we did a survey and, people want this. Well, okay, we get this new thing, how much of those people are paying taxes? How much security and safety is there? Who does the buck fall on, at the end of the day? And all these things, but it's popular, we did a survey, and so we do it because they might vote us in again. And so, yeah, but I enjoyed it, I read this, and I think if anything to me, it tells me, and I think, my colleagues here, that we're on the right track. Thank you.
Very much so. May I respond?
Certainly.
Or add, is that I think exactly what we're hearing is to use those kind of matrix and tools, and to use them not just to decide who should come, but to promote. One of the things the city's done very successfully is promote the town and promote living here. And so that's an asset that you can then expand on in terms of promoting which kind of businesses there's gaps in, right? And then the other thing this council could do is lead much more of a concerted local shopping connection that helps people understand how that's creating their own jobs and economy, rather than just you should shop locally because it's politically correct. You should shop locally because it's really good for you and your family.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah, it was about not just getting money here, and then it sits in a bank or whatever, but getting money here and then getting it moving around.
Yeah. So it's healthy conversations, and I think there's a lot of people that want to help. And I remember when we formed the first Mayor's Council, right, and really started engaging people. That was brilliant, and I think that people are up for more.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Southwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having been in small business for 16 years earlier in my adult life, small business is very close to my heart, and I absolutely understand how central it is to the health of community. Also, taking it one major step forward or farther, I am so appreciative of the work that you two particularly have done. And the groundswell movement, if you will, which is very active right now, and hopefully producing something that's going to be very useful for this council in terms of a social planning paper that we can move forward with. This all comes back to supporting the health of this community in every way. Social, economic, environmental, yes. I'm really delighted to see item 5.3 later on our agenda here. I believe it's 5.3, yeah. A program that we're going to be looking at with the Prep Society, which is, I believe, is designed to address exactly one of the things that you were speaking to, and your worship, that you were speaking to as well, and that is to generate exactly the kind of data you're talking about that can be useful to our community. So I'm very glad to see that. I've also been on the warpath for a while trying to figure out this, and I've talked to Kim Miller at the Chamber of Commerce on how to encourage people to consider using direct debit, for example, instead of credit cards, because I'm very aware that tens of thousands of dollars per month leave this community and this community's economy simply through credit card use. And yes, we're all addicted to the bling of our little prizes, but really, what's more important? It comes back to the same question. What's really important? Are we concerned for the health of our community, our businesses, what's going on here? Or is it that bling that's, just enticing us? And I'm becoming increasingly disdainful to that superficial consciousness. So I'm very delighted for the work that you've done and that you bring here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Southcott. Councillor Gore?
Yeah, thank you. You had 4 things outlined, kind of the perspectives, and I think we're doing pretty good on 3 of them, as the mayor pointed out. Community forest, we have been looking at that for a couple of years now, trying to expand it. There's different interpretations of what expansion looks like. But international education, obviously, a lot of work being done, supporting local business. We could do better at promoting, localizing our shopping, localizing capital. The one where we haven't quite got traction on yet, I think, is farming and food production, and for me that's probably got some of the best potential for localizing even more capital and retaining people and attracting people. I'm looking forward to the community food assessment is probably within a month or 2 wrapping up, and I'm hoping we can all use that as a bit of a springboard to initiate some of the action items that we've got listed in our ICSP, for example. There's some good ideas floating out there around food and food production. It's just a matter of pulling together different agencies and local governments to make those happen. So it was good to see it on here come out as one of the 4 focus items from the group you spoke to. I'm looking forward to working on it.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. And back to your worship.
Thank you. Yeah, on the food production side, on the buying local, I think what Ellison was telling us is that, yeah, we do our thing, but leadership could show more leadership in trying to come up with a philosophy and a way of life, like we're trying to do with climate change, that we kind of nurture and move forward as far as what are the benefits to shopping local. And that's kind of what I'm hearing loud and clear on that issue. On the issue of farming and local food as an economic driver, we bought in years ago. I was totally on the outside, and then one day Mr. Scott Randolph Preds got freaking ADL, the agricultural people, on our board, and they're part of our society. And I met Helena Bird, and kind of took me off guard because it's just something my brain had made a spot for. But after a short amount of time, I realized the idea and the brilliance of it, and bought in. And subsequently, I've spent a lot of hours next door. Scott's office is beside mine. not only working on that, and I can tell you that, you know, this council before and this one has been very supportive of trying to use some of our land for land-based aquaculture, which is food production. And we are having tremendous success in attracting investment and interest in this area. But it's not like, it's a very expensive way to produce seafoods and shellfish because it's on land. And so that's why it hasn't been so much embraced. And the science isn't all there, but it's getting there. It's like solar panels. It's getting there. And I can tell you, we're getting hits, like major hits. And so, you know, we spend a lot of time, as we have on our resident attraction program, on trying to promote some of our lands for land-based aquaculture farming. And like anything, we go out there a lot. Time went by, kind of, we thought the ship sort of left. But a year and a half later, we're starting to get interest, and big interest. And so we're working with different groups that are doing different things. So now, you know, we say, okay, good, you know, something may happen, and if it does, we got one south of town. We've got 2 or 3 other proposals that are looking, you know, within the community and using some old industrial assets, and actually industrial assets that are running that could be used for these facilities in partnerships with the mill. So that's all cool. When it comes to how do you get farmland into young farmers' hands, Scott and I have beat that one all up too. And it's very doable, but it's going to take some money and some time to get out there and create a bank of willing landowners that are willing to say, I'm going to retire and just kind of come back and stay in my house here, but all my land's available. And it could be an income driver or a retirement driver. But it takes time and coordination and the people, and we've talked about it. We know what to do, but it's having the resources to do it. And then we want to go out, and we've even talked about how we would recruit the right people and how we would interview the right people to say, this is your lucky day. You get to come here, and we're not only going to help you get a loan, we're not only going to help you get a piece of land, but you tell us why it's you that we should help. But that whole process, it takes resources and money that we quite don't know. So we're close. But we just, you know, and if you want to talk with Scott about that at some point, because, you know, he's the one that kind of showed me where the jam up is. But I think it's something we should get on and move forward, and then we can advertise. Because we do have, you know, the valley, we have Wildwood being selfish and wanting to see things in our city, because we need tax base and workers here. Not that it isn't good in the regional district, not at all. We support that too. But we kind of try and, you know, look internal first. So, you know, maybe it's something we can take to another level and come up with the plan. And if the plan's created, Scott, so we know what it is, then we just got to look for the bodies and the money. So, thanks.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Skajan?
Yeah, a little bit further on that, you know, keeping it within the city, it also decreases carbon footprint to market. You know, most of the people in the region do live within the city limits, so I know there's a gentleman in town that was actually looking for some sort of cooperative or some way of getting, you know, land quite cheaply so he could operate a market garden or a farm and, you know, be able to get it to market without, you know, by using bike or whatever. But he wanted to really reduce the carbon footprint by not having his farm way out of town. So there's that point as well, to having it close in town.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there a place, like in all of this, because these feel like feasible and exciting,
Yeah.
so for things like incentives, like I'm thinking of the role of council, like bylaws or zoning to change, like incentives for people to actually make those, like the landowners, to make those changes, like otherwise why would they really
Yeah.
necessarily do it, right? So is there a place for policy in that, is my question.
Yes, Your Worship.
Well, taxes on farm is very low. So there, you know, there's not much that you can do there. So if you're farming, you're at the lowest tax rate. you know, I think the big win is folks that don't want to leave their house, that have this land, that can see it generate and do what it should do, stay where they are and get an income, a percentage of the income. You know, give the new farmer a year, maybe two, but then you enjoy the spoils, you know, and so you get a subsidy to your retirement and you're in your own place. I think that's a big winner for folks. As far as other policies that we could do, and, you know, I don't know what controls we have there other than maybe, you know, through our Economic Development Office, you know, create that mechanism that we've talked about, and make it actually happen. And like we even, you know, it's almost like Community Futures or like a bank, or like, you know, where you need the board of business-minded farmers that interview these new people so that they have the best chance. And it's like a community forest where you've got people there who know the business that can help these young people along. I think just setting that up will go so far, you wouldn't believe it. And then we use our outreach program to, and then these people that can't afford even a rent in the Lower Mainland, wow, I could come up here. And generally too, on a big ALR land, you're allowed 2 residents. So, you know, even in the regional district where you need to have so many acres, I think you're allowed 2, your primary home and a secondary. So, you know, things can be done with, you know, where, you know, this, you do a subdivision, or you do, you know, something or other that Tom could, you know, come and help us there in planning. How would you arrange it so that at the end of the day they own something within this land, especially if it's in the city, there may be issues. So maybe there are some policies there that would allow the second home to actually go to the, you know, ownership of that new person over time. So, you know, maybe there is some policies there, yeah.
Go ahead and respond, Nelson.
I'll be succinct because I can see you're all starting to look at the clock. But I guess 2 things that while I was listening, one is the role of the city. I think is again to hold all the pieces together, because some of the other comments that people made were that if you do something innovative around farming, or if you do something innovative around the community forest, then that becomes a tourism point of interest, right? Because Powell River already has a tourism agenda that's very successful. There's work being done around disability tourism. If you then become farming tourism, if you then become resource industry tourism, for people to see something unique and different, because people around the world are craving new and different solutions and ways of living. And so the more this town can do that's a bit out of the box and demonstrates how a rural community in transition can preserve their lifestyle, the more you also create another economic driver, right? Because then people want to come to see. And then the other thing is where people can have more conversations, because in this conversation and the one I just had the other day about this project, it came to my mind that there's opportunity to get some work done for free, right? And I was thinking, because I'm at VIU, about the business programs there. You know, students need student projects, and post-secondary is all about engaging people in real life in the community right now. UVic has an administrative planning master's program, right, that Keelan just got accepted into, who is our work student, right? Maybe there's some free things, right? Because what you're trying to do is needed, not just here, but in other communities. It's very real, and yet you have a unique position because you have a leadership that's willing to take those steps, which isn't true everywhere. So I think that having places to continue the conversation is important, and I don't know what those could be, but I think that's in your purview to decide.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Chair, just in response, Scott was shaking his head back there, so.
No, I wasn't shaking my head,
Yeah, so basically that's what he's saying is, you know, you're talking about a master's program, a thesis, and this jam up that we know what we gotta do, we just don't have the resource, et cetera. There you go, make that call, let's do it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Burr?
There is a gap in food policy, and I think communities that have been successful in moving on food policy related issues have created a food policy council. That's when they pull together, you know, the different local governments, the education institutions like a VIU, for example, school districts, coastal health authority, get them all talking together, sort out who's doing what related to food policy, and that's where you can have those conversations you were alluding to, right? That's where you start finding out who's doing what, and how we can leverage each other's resources to make something happen. And in specifics, in terms of land, for example, it's not always easy to do something within the municipal boundaries, although there's an item later on the agenda that's related to small-scale agriculture. We've got land within the regional district south of town that we could get creative with and make available for agriculture. So there's opportunities there. I'm hopeful that Food Policy Council will be one of the things that rolls out of the community food assessment that'll get done soon.
Part of our grant is to wrap up this project by presenting not just here but to regional district and Coahoma Council, and I think we're scheduled at Coahoma in March 17th, and I think we probably won't make it to the regional district because of their schedule and ours till April. We will be sharing the similar report with them.
Thank you. I want to just say thank you for bringing your study and presentation forward. Very well done. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of support for economic development around this committee room, and it's on everybody's mind. And the one thing that I take from your delivery is one of your members said we have to control or make sure that we're cognizant about growth. Well, I want to get to that point one day. I don't think it'll be this term, but if we can put a healthy foundation in place for future growth and this community moving forward on a sustainable basis in the future, well, we're going to be doing something here. So we're going to work hard each and every day, led by our worship here, who's the economic guru on this committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, moving along on today's agenda, we move to correspondence. So we have a letter dated February 1st, 2016 from the BC Game Society regarding invitation to bid to host BC Summer and Winter Games 2020 and 2022. Who would like to comment on this item? Councilor Hathaway.
I'd like to ask staff to take a look at the feasibility of us actually doing that. Do we have what's required? Do we have the facilities? Could we do it? We have the template form for doing other kinds of conferences. This one's a little different, but it would sure be exciting if we could pull something like that off. But I didn't do any investigation into what the parameters are, so it would be interesting to know.
Thank you, Councilor Hathaway. Mr. Fraser?
In anticipation of that, done a bit of research. The last summer games were 2014 in Nanaimo, and not to be put off by numbers, just to give an idea, 2,500 athletes along with 500 coaches and 200 officials, and they used 2,800 volunteers to host them. Our template for now has been the 150 ABICC type conference because we have 150 bed spaces readily available. Summer games, in my understanding, can get into building, which is a different thing. But I think staff would very much like to investigate this, but they don't make it easy and say you must have this many bed spaces and such like that.
Maybe I'll change that to note and file.
Well, I think
Seems like it's outside our realm.
I would suggest staff would like to sort this out and know, because the summer games and the winter games generally are about the same size. Mm-hmm. So are we in the running, yes or no? Answer that question once.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Mayor Formosa?
Yeah, just want to remind everybody, we did host the BC Disability Games.
Yeah.
It was led by Joyce Carlson and a team. It was quite an undertaking, so we also have that template that we can reach to. And I think if you talked with Joyce, you could probably get an idea of what the size of that was in comparison with what this was. But we did do that, and apparently it went off very well.
Thank you, Mayor Formosa. I have a speaking list here. Councilor Leishman, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was involved in the BC Disability Games with the chair, Palm, and it was a pretty big scope. But Joyce, yeah, she probably still has the numbers of what we were faced with. I was doing ceremonies and celebrations and stuff, so, but it was that was probably the closest that we would be. But in terms of winter games, yeah, in terms of being able to host winter games, I attended the BC Winter Games in Smithers when it was there as a figure skating coach, And we don't have a ski hill, so I don't know how we would do the skiing events without transporting people over to the island. But we stayed in the elementary school classrooms, and I had macaroni art up on my head. So that's where we stayed. They didn't have accommodations, so we billeted and stayed on the floor. So it's possibly doable if we had a ski hill, but summer games maybe.
Councillor Sketchman.
Thank you. Yes, I've also attended BC Summer Games as an athlete, and yeah, billeted in schoolrooms. You know, we slept in the classrooms. But I think we sort of have a mini version this summer. The Francophone Games are here in May, so it's I think a smaller event.
150.
Yeah. Okay. So much smaller. Yeah, I don't remember the numbers. But it's you know, it's a good little just to take a look at and see how it comes together.
Thank you. Yeah, just to add a couple of quick comments. Having attended Winter Games in the past in Terrace and doing our 2007 Disability Games here, which the numbers were at that time probably about, we were expecting 300, and I think we ended up getting close to 200, a little under 200. So even that itself is a major undertaking for this small community in terms of our hotel space and beds available. So trying to host a summer game, probably not doable. Winter game, you would have to partner with Courtney with the ski hill and whatnot if you were to be a part of a delivery of the winter game. So that's kind of where we're at.
So
Having said that,
So if I can through the chair, then is it council's wish for staff to look into the feasibility, and do you want to hear back, or are you just content to receive this for information?
what's council's wish?
My thing is no file, but
I think it's beyond our.
Yeah.
And
We
we'll
can
note it
dream.
received. Thank you.
need some more hotel rooms.
Who's
Yeah.
hosting the Francophone Games, may I ask?
20 years.
Nicole Soler and the French.
Oh, so they are here in town?
Yep.
Well, there we go.
Yep.
I
In
just wanted to get
May
involved, but that's the right
15th,
size.
The third week in May.
third week in May.
Okay, so no file. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving along on today's agenda, we move to item 4.2. Didn't get scrubbed, no?
No.
Letter received February 24th, 2016 from Janine Reimer, Research and Communications regarding C3 online consultation help.
So if I can through the chair, so this is Ms. Reimer's follow-up to the presentation that she made to council a week or so ago, so it's there for your information.
Okay, what is council's wish? Would we like to hear from Ms. Reimer? Yes.
Thank you. Have we considered putting it towards a C3?
That was noted in the minutes that the suggestion was made, so we can certainly, if that's council's wish, we can certainly look at that. Yep. For the next
Yes.
one.
Yeah, very good. Your worship?
Yeah, I also know that we've got an RFP out for communications right now.
Yes, we do.
So I think this would sort of fall in line with that RFP. And, I think we're getting questions answered in
Yes.
writing to those that we asked when we had the meeting, so I'm okay with it as it is.
Yes, Mr. Fraser?
In anticipation of setting the agenda for the C3 meetings, the leaders group meets, the chair, the mayor, the chief, and the 3 CAOs, and that's set for 8th of March next week for an 11th of March meeting, I believe. I'm not sure if it's the 11th of March, but it is on the agenda for discussion to confirm by the leaders about being on at the C3. But I suggest in anticipation of it being warmly received, Mrs. Reimer should be ready for short notice to be on for the 11th.
For the 11th.
C3, 11th of March.
For me to come to the 11th?
Yeah, I'm being a bit bold and I can't set the agenda, but if you're asked, you're only going to get about 3 days notice.
Okay. May I?
Sorry. You're here. Go ahead.
So there's the C3 where it may be discussed, and then there is the RFP you mentioned where I hadn't read the RFP when I was here, but I have since read it, and yeah, I can see how whoever has that position of communications coordinator, it may or may not fit into the budget that they envision. So there's that. But there's also the roundtable, strategic priority of community engagement that has not yet been scheduled. So I imagine that there will be things that come up in the roundtable that hopefully this community engagement hub can be incorporated into that roundtable as a discussion point. I had hoped that, I guess that the April 5th treaty date, the effective date, would be a great time to launch this, but that's a kind of pie in the sky thing now, I guess, because that's a ways away. But I mean, it's too soon, considering that the roundtable hasn't happened yet. But anyway, so those are the various dates of things that I think are going to influence this decision. So I'm kind of, I guess I'll have to wait till perhaps after the roundtable till I find out if this.
The 3C you're referring to on March 11th?
No, I'm referring to the strategic priority roundtable that Councillor Brewer mentioned and that I know was in Mr. Fraser's report from January 19th, actually, on roundtables. And I thought there were like 4 that were supposed to be slated, one for each of the 4 strategic priorities.
Mr. Fraser, just clarify that.
It's my first day back from vacation and I'm tasked to make them happen. I'm tasked to make them happen.
Oh, make them happen. Okay, yeah.
So not much has moved, but it will shortly.
Right.
So we'll keep you in the picture. But I think the intention of the roundtables is to start a conversation and get the right people and have a very big conversation that advances certain things,
right.
But not to be per se controlling where that discussion goes as much as being listening hard. So we'll see where it goes.
So just to, so I understand it correctly, this is to gather information. It's not, again, to use the IAP2 model, it's not to empower the roundtable participants to make the policy decision or to make the decision on what types of communications you might be using.
The roundtable, the report that I put to council, and it's council's decision about where it goes, but my report suggested that roundtables are about facilitating discussion and facilitating action, but not necessarily municipal action.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I can, through the chair, just remind council, when I know Mr. Fraser, you weren't here on February 4th, but your report was received at the council meeting, and the direction was that your recommendation was that staff be directed to do a detailed plan to convene the roundtable for the 4 strategic community priorities. So that's where we are. Council's given that direction, and staff will come back with a plan.
Okay, thank you very much. First, Councillor Hathaway and then
I'm
Councillor
just
Burr.
confused. That's just a city initiative, is it not?
Yeah.
It's not anything to do with SLAM or regional district. That's just strictly city. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Burr?
Yeah, and just a comment that I think given the nature of what you presented to the 3 governments, a C3 makes sense for that conversation to happen there. It's not going to be any one government that's going to decide whether they're pursuing it or not. So I think given the nature of what you presented, it's going to be a conversation. It's not a decision-making forum at C3. It's just going to get a sense of what people think of sharing a communication strategy.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to presume what that discussion would be like, but there's all kinds of nuances from my perspective on who's going to speak for who and what's that look like.
Right.
So I think I would just defer, as the CAO said, they're going to set the agenda on the 8th. You may get a call to be available.
Sure.
Depends what the leadership team for the 3 governments decides.
And I think we, through the chair, noted that Ms. Reimer, you have presented already to both the regional district and to Parliament.
Yeah.
So everybody is aware of your proposal.
Yeah, and it seems everybody's somewhat positive. So yeah, it would be great if it went ahead. Can I add one other little thing here? Or sorry.
Just going to go to your worship who wants to.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when we meet at this, where the 3 leaders and their staff meet, we usually make sure that there's enough items to even meet for. So we don't even know if something will come of a meeting if there's not enough items on the agenda. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. And your point, you.
Well, yeah, just on another note, back to the RFP, I noticed there was an interest in internal communications as well. And so I just thought I should add that the presentation that I made on the 16th, that idea of an online communications hub can be used internally by council and staff. You can have your own private little place where only you have access and only you get into that document library, into that video library, image library, see each other's conversations. So it is an intranet that you can use as well.
And we can keep Chris Bolster out of there?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you very much for being here today, and we will hopefully see you at the 3C on March 11th.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
So, moving along on today's agenda, we go to reports.
If I can, through the chair, you added 4.3,
Oh, yes, 4.3,
which was
yes.
an email that Councillor Southcott circulated on the 29th regarding first responders and PTSD. Did you want to speak to it?
Sure, just very briefly.
Yeah, sure. Councilor Sarkot, go right ahead.
Having been a first responder myself for 29 years, I was impressed by the letter that Ken McLeish sent to most of us. I don't think it got to all of us, actually, so I forwarded it to Council, CAO, CFO, City Clerk. Just to cut to the chase, this is provincial legislation, and my ask is that anybody who feels that it's worthwhile, hoping some of us do, write to support this. It does definitely apply locally because we have a number of dozen first responders who can be directly affected, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that as far as locally goes. In the most acute sense, this is about suicide prevention. Having been associated to these fields for 29 years, I have a certain amount of that I've observed, and I'm not going to go any farther with that either. This is really about broken people costing our society, and people who are very useful and who serve our society being useful and real assets as far as an asset orientation, and making the gateway to bringing people from being broken to being useful again, both to themselves, their families, and our society in general, easier. That's what this legislation is for. So really, for me personally, it's about turning weaknesses that are human into strengths. And I think as we facilitate that personally, that we benefit collectively. So that's all I have to say about that, and I thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Councilor Sarkot. Yes, Councilor Hathaway?
Thanks. Just to comment on that a little bit, it is a private member's bill as opposed to the government bringing this forward by Shane Simpson. And just to explain it to people, it's an amendment to the Workers' Compensation Act. And basically what this act, if it was passed, which usually is unlikely when it's a private member's bill, but with enough pressure from the public, it can happen. So this act amends the Workers' Compensation Act in order to provide support and care for British Columbia's first responders. The act creates a presumptive clause for first responders suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. In recognition of the crucial role paramedics, firefighters, police officers, and others play in ensuring the health and safety of British Columbians, this act guarantees that they will receive timely support and treatment when they are suffering from exposure to traumatic events. So in other words, it makes them easier to make a claim under WCB for post-traumatic stress disorder, which totally makes sense. And I think it's an excellent bill, and I would encourage people to write to government. Your MLA is well aware. I've sent him Mr. McLeish's letter to his private email to make sure he saw it, although I know all the opposition MLAs did receive a copy of it. And this, I'm not sure when they're debating this, but if people can send letters to government saying that they think this is an important change to legislation, there's a hope it might pass, because I agree it's an important piece of legislation. So thanks for bringing it forward.
And thank you for that clarification, Councillor.
You're very welcome. It's all part of my day job.
Okay, there we go. Hearing no further comments, when we
got a
move on
comment
to
over
today's
there.
agenda. Oh, sorry, Your Worship.
Yeah, so is this something that we would do individually, or would we as a city council write in support?
I think it would be an excellent idea, a good idea.
Because I'd be happy to sign
Send a letter
something.
from the city saying we support that legislation.
But I'll ask our clerk.
So through the chair, what I can do is we can bring this to council Thursday night as a late item and get a letter prepared, and I think it would carry some weight to show that there was a council resolution passed in support of it, and then we
Yeah,
can have
good idea.
staff
I
fire
wish
it
I'd
off on
thought of
Friday.
that.
Well, I'm not
I
just
did
pretty
read it
basic.
over there.
Well done, Your Worship.
Great.
Your thinking cap on. Okay, moving along. We have, we move now to reports. Report dated March 1st, 2016 from the Director of Planning Services regarding development variance permit 191.
So through the chair, this is the one that was
Cancel.
Oh, we read the
We're
I gotta read my own notes.
We're not going to hear from the Director of Planning in that regard.
We're not giving him a chance.
But he does want to say something.
Okay. No, go right ahead, sir.
You might want to introduce.
Tom, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want? What do you
Who's
want?
that? Who's that?
I had nothing, I was just straining my pants and he's sitting down there so.
Okay, we'll move along on today's agenda. We move to item 5.2, report dated March 1st, 2016 from the Director of Infrastructure regarding the Powell River Trash Bash 2016.
Thank you. So, once again, this year the Regional District is planning their trash bash. The date is set for Saturday, April the 30th. And we're proposing that the city participate in the event. Like in 2015, city residents would bring their waste material to the Willingdon Beach site, where there would be bins available for the disposal of material at no cost. So that material would include items such as furniture, tires, old appliances, mattresses, and carpet. Household garbage would not be accepted. So city staff would work with the regional district to advertise the event for residents in Powell River as well as the regional district. So for residents without transportation and that have mobility issues, the city's proposing to, much like last year, approach local groups such as Rotary and CUPE, who were involved last year. And the idea is to have residents who need assistance to call. And last year they called a city number, and we delegated that to the various groups in various areas to arrange for pickup, and the residents would make a donation to that group. Last year, the trash bash costed a total of $16,400, and the city contributed $4,000 to that event. This year, the request is for the city to contribute $5,000, and so those costs would go towards waste disposal and advertising and food and beverages for the volunteers. And if it's as successful, then that cost would be at least $16,400. So the regional district is looking for us to contribute $5,000 towards this. So I think it's a good event.
Thank you, Mr. Hurtig. Your Worship?
Yeah, so to the chair, why from 4 to 5? Why a 5? Why another Gino grant?
I think they feel that the success of the event last year is going to parlay into more disposal costs again this year. So that's why they've come up with an arbitrary amount of $5,000.
And if it doesn't?
We're still contributing, about a third, a quarter of the total last year, so the request at this point is for $5,000.
Okay.
Yes, so we have Councillor Salzgardt and then Councillor Scatchard.
Thank you. So last year, 25 tons of garbage, including about 4 tons of metal, was recovered. Do you have any idea what previous figures as the weights were? Because
Prior to?
Yeah.
I don't have that at my fingertips, no. It was a significant increase from the year prior, but I don't have the historical values that was collected. But it has gone up dramatically.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Scatchard.
Thank you, through the chair. And this might be a question for Councillor Brewer or Councillor Leishman. There are often costs at the regional district that the city already contributes to. Do you know offhand where the funding, the balance of the funding in the regional district is coming from? Are we already contributing in that way as well?
Presumably it's through the waste management service, which is a regional service, so roughly it's assessment based, so roughly 50-50%.
So we're already, so of the balance, that'd be like $11,000, $11,400, we're contributing half of that through taxes. So if we contribute 5,000 plus 5.5, we're paying 2/3.
And if you broke it down from their perspective, the argument would be if it's population based, it's roughly 70-30, right? So that's probably where this number comes from and where the 4,000 came from last year, I would suspect. So that would be, yeah, we could say up to 5,000, and depending on the final cost, have an accounting of what it actually cost and work it backwards so that it's roughly population.
That's kind of where I'm going.
That's probably where they're getting at here, so maybe if we made it up to 5,000.
Okay, so council?
Yep, Mr. Fraser, you have a comment?
If I could, just a different filter to look at it. This is the cheapest way we're going to get garbage off the trails that we're promoting. As the former administrator of the RD, I can tell you, if you got every RD member out there on staff to do this, you would do a very small area, because it's a very small group. If we paid our employees to do it, we would have more people and much, much more expense than $16,000. So if you look at it, our contribution to the trails, it's good investment. And I can also say, as a community member the last 5 years, it's an event.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a social event where people feel proud, and then they have a stewardship for the rest of the year where they don't put stuff in the forest, and they have a license to catch people who do and give them help.
Very good point. Councillor Burke?
And if you recall, I think it was 3 years ago, we were talking about how to do like either a trash pickup day, or just to try and encourage people to take their stuff to the roadside. And we talked about picking it up, but that would end up costing more than just doing this sort of one collection point. So that's why staff landed on doing this. It makes sense. It's a good event. And there's definitely a lot of garbage being dropped out in the woods.
Yes, Councillor Scatchard.
Thank you, through the chair. And so we've also got our trucks going out picking up within the city. That's on top of the 5,000 contribution as well.
We've helped with our providing our flatbed trucks with volunteer members. We've done that in the past.
But that's on top of
That's on top of it. Yeah.
So it's like an in-kind contribution on top.
The cost is minimal because it's the labor is volunteered.
Oh,
so it's just,
of course, yeah.
You know, a little bit
Gas
of mileage.
and, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we'll call into discussion.
Council.
What I'm hearing is this goes to council and we'll change the wording up to 5,000, or we take it as is?
Up to
I
5,000.
like up to.
Up to? Very good. All in agreement?
Yep, thank you.
Great, thank you. And we move to item 5.3, which is still on the agenda. I gotta go through each one of these like each time. It's a nightmare. Report dated March 1st, 2016 from the interim chief financial officer regarding partnering agreement with the Powell River Employment Program Society.
So if I can through the chair, the interim CFO is not in the office today. So the report is pretty straightforward. It talks about the business retention and expansion project. That was a key initiative in economic development. There was budget for it, and this is just to formalize the agreement between the city and the Powell River Employment Program Society. The liaison with that would be Mr. Randolph as our EDO, and this is just to get council's approval on the contribution agreement.
Council?
Council? Yeah, Council Burke.
Question on it though, given that it's partnering agreement, are we required to give public notice of the partnering agreement?
I think you're thinking of a partnering agreement where we float a loan maybe, or we provide assistance, but I can look into that before it comes to council. I think you're thinking of another type of partnering agreement that we've done where we've providing
assistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a contract for the chair.
Yeah.
Councillor Hathaway?
So is this a partnership agreement as opposed to a partnering agreement? Because I think partnering agreement, as been pointed out, has a specific meaning in legislation, and we may want to call it a partnership agreement, or is it in fact a partnering agreement?
If I can through the chair, the agreement's been vetted by our legal counsel. So when the CFO is in the office tomorrow, I'll ask her these questions, and we'll make sure that when it comes to council for adoption that it's what it should be.
Good, okay, thanks.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because there was all that issue around the statutory requirements for partnering agreements. So maybe it's just semantics in the wording we've
If
chosen
you
to use
remember
for this.
the partnering agreements that caused the problem in the previous, I believe, is when we provided a loan to a corporation.
Partnering agreements are providing assistance unilaterally to an individual business.
This is not the same.
Right, that's it.
It's all good stuff, just want to make sure we're
good point.
free of
Thanks for
unwarranted
keeping our
scrutiny.
staff on their toes, Council. Moving along on today's agenda, we move to item 5.4, community engagement reports. Councillors, where would we like to start? Anybody? Councillor Scatchard?
Sure, I've been unfortunately out with the plague for the last couple of weeks, but I did manage to make it to the refugee meeting last night, the large group meeting, and all the groups are working towards bringing in families with their sponsorship agreement holders, and the ground seems to be shifting. They're every day they get different information, but there are several families identified, and they're just still going through the hoops and jumping through the hoops, but yeah, they're very encouraged, all the different groups, and Texada is, I think, the only group that doesn't have a family yet, but they're working on getting all their funding together, and there's an event, the One Voices Choir is doing an event on the, do you have it handy there? You know, the One Voices. It's on Wednesday the 23rd, big refugee fundraiser, and all the groups are very positive. It was a really great meeting.
Very good. Thank you very much. Councillor Brooke?
Sure, just a bit of an update from Tourism Powell River. The application for the municipal and regional district tax, also known as the hotel room tax or the 2% tax, is with Cabinet now. So they're hoping to hear shortly, well, I won't say shortly, but once Cabinet approves that application, there's a 3-month waiting period before funds can start being collected. So it looks like perhaps as early as July, those municipal and regional district tax funds will start being made available. That means about, for the whole upper and lower Sunshine Coast, probably about $350,000 that will then be available for marketing for the upper lower Sunshine Coast. So that's positive. So hopefully that gets through Cabinet. For one of the last jurisdictions without that source of funding, which puts us at a disadvantage relative to other jurisdictions. So they'll still be, once that gets in place, then Tourism Powell River and Sunshine Coast Tourism will have a discussion on how they liaise and continue their memorandum of understanding for joint marketing. So good news, it's finally with Cabinet. That's been probably 4 or 5 years running now.
Very good. Moving along, Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Groundswell Policy Committee is carrying on with its bi-weekly meetings. There's an event tonight sponsored by Oliver Voices focusing on child poverty, which is one of the two policy items that that policy committee is focusing on, and it will be there will be a star panel at the event tonight, including Councillor Brewer.
We'll be starring Councillor Brewer.
I think I just drew the short stick. So I expect you all to be there as 1/7 of the panel in my role.
Very good.
That committee is also was hit by the plague, so it's working very hard to catch up.
Yeah.
The Division of Family Practice committee group has moved its office from Gibson's Crossings up to right beside the tourism office. The specific committee that I've been involved with, the GP for Me committee, which has had the purpose of brainstorming to support new physicians in town and help encourage physicians to come to town. It looks like it's going to be resolving its mandate within the next month or so, so I may have something to offer on that later on. It's brought the Fetch program for everything community health, which is a website, database, information is being distributed around the community, trying to give better access to all community health services to this community. One more thing I'd just like to mention is that I attended the Powell River Agricultural Association AGM last week, and the featured part of that meeting was a discussion of amalgamation with the Farmers Institute. There was unanimous support for that, so unanimous support to send the executive committee of the Agricultural Association to meet with the executive committee of the Farmers Institute to explore how to do that. I'll just mention that the Powell River Agricultural Association has been around almost as long as the Farmers Institute. They both have very long histories. The Agricultural Association goes back to 1933. There's a couple of gaps in its incarnation since then, but it's pretty much continued continuously. It is responsible for and has looked after the outdoor market and also the fall fair, basically. And those two operations are continuing, and they conceive that they would continue as a committee under whatever the new organization might look like, to look after those responsibilities. So it's more of a move towards cooperation, which I really see as positive in the light of our real interest in promoting agriculture in our community. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Southcott. Councillor Eastman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to announce that the selection committee has finalized 10 successful applicants for the Youth Council, and we have our inaugural meeting tomorrow, and they will be, the ones that can attend council on Thursday night will come and will be introduced to council. Not all of them can attend because it was kind of short notice, but those that can attend, and then we'll announce who they all are on Thursday night.
And the meeting tomorrow is at 4 p.m., right?
Yes, yeah.
Very good. Hearing no other comments, I just have a couple of quick items. One, Brooks is very fortunate through the work of our Vice Principal, Mrs. Bean, who is working on the Chinese education front with Sinobrate. There are 7 visitors to our community, 7 teachers from Shanghai province at Brooks for this week and next before they leave and visit other parts of the province and Toronto. I had the pleasure of touring them around yesterday, and they very much got an eye-opener about what education's all about here in Powell River. And these 7 gentlemen in their suits are from the #1 school in Shanghai province, a school of 10,000 students. So it's a little different. They definitely have their eyes wide open. And one of the highlights on yesterday's tour was not only seeing our kindergarten and grade 1 classes and all their interactive activities, which their students don't do in a sterile environment because there aren't bulletin boards and all that kind of thing. They just, with that mass number, don't do that type of thing. So they're taking snapshots of bulletin boards and everything that you wouldn't imagine.
Wow.
So to take it home and show what's going on here. So it's very interesting to see them work. And one of the highlights of yesterday's trip was visiting Your Worship, Mayor Formosa, who was very kind to allow 2 of the gentlemen to sit in this chair with the chains. I think that was probably the highlight of the tour. So it was all good. And, it was a very good tour, and they can continue on this week. And before I get to you, one other thing I have to mention. Don't forget, the recreational survey is in full gear, and the kiosks were at Brooks all last week. Many of our students took part in that. And I'll just warn the public, when you are going to approach that kiosk, plan to be there a while. Having filled one out at Brooks, it was there, and there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of buttons to push. So, Mr. Galinsky, can you give us a quick update on where the kiosks are going now?
I certainly could, Mr. Chair. They are distributed quite widely at this moment. We have one at the senior center right now to get that demographic. We also have one at the recreation complex, and there's been one there steadily. There will be 3 of them there on Friday night because the Kings, yay, are in the playoffs, and so hopefully those that are attending those games will be able to avail themselves of that. We have also gone into Regional District Area A, so there's one at Nancy's Bakery, and there's also one in Clehaven at the convenience store, so that's where they are this week, and we will continue to rotate them through until March 15th when the survey will be concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Galinsky. You can almost say that was rehearsed, but it wasn't. Oh, well done, sir. Councilor Hathaway.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention I'm continuing to work on an additional dialysis machine for Powell River. I was away for 2 weeks, so everything kind of came to a standstill, but I do have a further meeting next week, so I'm not letting that drop. That I'm working towards getting an additional machine there if we possibly can, so maybe I'll have some sort of report for our next meeting.
You're not going to like your meeting.
I know. I'm ready.
You're not going to like it either.
Yeah.
And any further comments? Hearing none, we'll move along. And we move to item 5.5, action list, dated February 18, 2016. Any comments? Councilor Rourke.
I just have one, item 4, about from our February 14th council meeting, develop a detailed plan to convene roundtable. I thought we had also talked at that meeting about bringing back the corporate priorities that we discussed and finally adopting those. I don't know if that's everyone else's recollection.
There was discussion on it. I don't recall clear direction.
Yes, the discussion was that we haven't formally adopted those yet, and that last report didn't speak to those, so I'm wondering if there's a missing piece there that we need to bring those corporate priorities back to us, to council.
Through the chair, I can take that as direction. Yes, that, I apologize if it wasn't mentioned, that's the intent.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Burke. Anything else? Further, Councilor Southcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question with regard to item number 6, which says prepare a report to review private sector marine operators' practices, reparking rates for annual award contract holders. As I remember, there was some question with regard to other public marinas or other marinas in other, not just private, or am I misunderstanding that to mean private, like municipal marinas in other communities?
Through the chair, I believe my memory's right, there was comparison with other public sector marinas. And this request was to compare it with other private sector marinas.
No, I think we need to clarify that a little bit. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, through the chair, I understood it that it was we didn't really receive any information about people that pay an annual moorage fee enjoy free parking. And whether it's public or private marina, but it was just the one that was brought up by a letter from the member of the public was that marinas in this area, if you pay an annual moorage fee, you get free parking. And of course, we have the only public marina, so it would be impossible to compare it within Powell River, but it would be other public marinas in the general area. Like we compared daily rates and monthly rates and so forth with other marinas, but I thought it was marinas in general, public and private.
One point of clarification, I think that we referred this to staff, but we never put a date upon return. Is that going to come forward to a future finance meeting or to committee of the whole?
Through the chair, this is item 6. It's a report to the finance committee and it's slated for the April meeting. April meeting. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question in regards to the timelines there. Considering right now our policy charges people for parking when they renew their membership, how many renew at the start of the year, and is that going to be a problematic down the road if we wait till April?
Through the chair, I'm looking at tours in the room. It's year-round use of our marina.
Yeah.
So the challenge is...
When do most people renew, Tor?
Most of them renew at the beginning of the year so that they can capture the discounted rates. So the people that we get in the middle of the year are normally just temporary, short-term users. So in where the conversation was going, they wouldn't necessarily benefit from the free passes unless they were annual users.
So there's our dilemma, because the free parking would only be given to people with year-round boat moorage. It doesn't affect the people going short-term in the summer months. So if all these people are renewing now, they're paying for their parking ticket, parking permit, and we roll that back, well, they're stuck with another parking debt for another year when nobody in the region is doing that. Yes, Mayor Famoso.
Well, you want to encourage people to buy yearly contracts, so that's why you have these issues, right? The yearly contract holders would enjoy parking, would enjoy a better rate, and if you're going to just be take a week or Friday night or a month, you pay higher. That's a norm.
Yeah, but my point is, if they're all renewing now and they're going to be paying, which is really not, I don't think, what
paying what
through the chair. I think you're thinking first of the season, and Tor's thinking first of the calendar year.
Yeah, 1st of January. They've already paid.
The majority of the slips are booked for the year.
Through the chair, the contracts run January 1 to December 31
and
annually.
They pay for their parking
and
at that time too?
The parking permits are good for a calendar year. So if you bought a parking permit in January or you bought a parking permit today, it would be the same. We do provide a discount to purchase a parking permit. I believe September 1 there is a reduction in the fee because obviously you're only getting it for a partial year, and that's set out in your fee bylaw through the chair.
But the problem is, the issue was around fairness. When nobody is charging for parking if you have boat moorage year round. So they're all now getting charged regardless, where others aren't. It's not fair.
The point, I think staff hears that point clearly. When you start to differentiate about what time of year that they're renewed, I think the point is, like the mayor said, the intention is that the year-round, albeit not parking at the moment, but the year-round has advantages. Yeah. Over, it's more expensive to be transient in short time because it's less predictable and it's less revenue.
I don't know, but I thought we resolved the issue of parking for the regular contract holders. Did we not?
No.
That was the way?
No. There's our problem. we have not resolved.
So, through the chair, I believe that's what part of this direction that was given at the finance committee meeting in January, that's what that's about.
I guess we have to let it play
Why
out.
am I smelling my dinner?
And charge for another year, unfortunately.
I see why.
It's not coming from my office.
Okay, let's move along. Over that point. Okay, any further comments on action list? Hearing none, we move to item 6.1 under unfinished business, RCMP and victim services staff use of the recreation complex.
So through the chair, if you remember, this was actually, the report originally went to the finance committee in January, and it was reviewed and then referred to council, and it went February 18th to the council meeting, and at that time there was a motion put on the floor that it be sent back to this committee, so here it is.
Thank you. Mayor Formosa.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that we get a, sort of look at the whole process, and who gets free, get a staff report on what it's costing us, how much it's being used, and, you know, the rationale behind it. You know, we know that our complex is expensive to run, you know, this sort of just seems to be going down a slippery slope. You know, more and more and more folks are wanting free, yet costs are going higher and higher, and I think there's more than one person sitting at this table today that believes that. So I'm going to leave it to others, but I'd like to see a report looking at the whole show from the beginning again. You know, we started this with our previous councils, and now it just seems to be getting away on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councilor Brewer.
Yeah, and thanks for attaching the personnel policy to this. We need a more comprehensive report on this, in my mind, that looks at our entire wellness programs and incentive program. The wellness program policy speaks to an activity report to council, and I don't know that I've seen one in my time, and that's kind of what we would get out of this as well. I think it should include some idea. The intent of a wellness program is to reduce your sick time and some of those things, and it'd be nice to have some metrics on where we're at on those numbers relative to maybe other jurisdictions. I think we need to assess whether it's consistent with some of our other policies and even the collective agreement. And is our wellness program achieving the objectives we set out for? And I couldn't help looking at this request and what we're doing presently without thinking about, should we be looking at some kind of incentives or programs for low-income families, and maybe a potential to provide passes to some of those folks. So I think we need to roll all that into something more comprehensive and bring that back before we consider free passes for the RCMP.
Thank you, Councilor Brewer. Councilor Hathaway.
Thanks. I think Councillor Brewer said most of what I want to say, but I just emphasize it's an employee wellness program, and these are contractors, not employees. So I look forward to a report as well. I think that's what's required. Yeah.
Thank you. Hearing no further comment.
So am I hearing?
We'll ask staff for a report.
Thank you. So you're looking for a report on the city's wellness program, and you want to see statistics on how much it's being used, and is it achieving its objectives, and a review of the policy.
And through the chair,
Yes, Your Worship.
how our wellness program is working in conjunction with when we had started allowing staff, I think we always did maybe, but if there is a start time to that, how is it affecting our wellness program? Are we getting better, getting worse, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes, Councilor.
Just some idea of, obviously every good employer wants to have a wellness program for their employees, but it's good to check in and see, is it working? What other types of wellness programs are out there? There might be some best practices from other jurisdictions that would meet the same objectives or actually improve on the objectives we had in that original policy. So that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councilor Reed.
Thanks to the chair. Yeah, this employee wellness program policy is dated June 13th, 2006. So it's quite a while ago, but yeah, it would be good to know what that was, how it's affected staff, and but comparing it with other similar communities perhaps, because I would like to know how many sick days staff take in relation to maybe comparative communities or something, because theoretically this employee wellness program should reduce sick days, and I'd like to know if it does.
I could through the chair. I would agree with the councillor that that would be one of the grants.
One of them.
And also make it a more positive workplace, which is value. It's easy to quantify the costs. It will be a little bit harder to quantify the values.
And how much it's being used.
How much is being used, we can quantify quite specifically.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk?
So if you remember, we did a whole council policy review in the last year, and one of the things we said that there was a lot of personnel policies, of which this is one, and we didn't bring a lot of them forward to you because we're in between HR managers right now. So this would be one that would be part of that group that we postponed bringing to you. So that's why it's got the, what is it, 2006. It hasn't been reviewed as part of the policy review.
Thank you for that information. Councillor Cashin?
Yeah, I just noticed in this policy, thank you for attaching it, it specifically says RCMP members are not to be considered employees of the city under this wellness program. So if in fact we did, we'd have to, amend this policy.
So through the chair, if you look at the original, the report from Mr. Bogarts, it was not to include the RCMP as part of the wellness program. It was to provide.
To provide it as separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Same old.
Councillor Burke?
And that's another point to address in the report, because under what mechanism would we in fact provide those passes to
If there's
non-employees?
not policy.
That's essentially a grant and aid, right? So that's why I made the point of, is it consistent with existing policies?
Thank you. I just want to add my 2 cents, because I spoke clearly in favor of providing access to the RCMP for the same reason that our firefighters get access in their own facility where they have a station to work out regularly. Those are the men and women that are engaged in protecting the welfare of our citizens. Many of them require physical presence, and if your RCMP and our firefighters aren't in fit form, well, I think that should be a job requirement of that service. So that's the reason I spoke in favor of allowing our RCMP access. I think it's a great idea. I also agree with council that all of our various policies in this regard need to be looked at so that we can make some informed decisions and put a policy in place that is working for the vast majority. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Any further comments? Hearing none. We'll move on. Move to item 6.2. Proposed ban on single-use plastic bags. Councillors Leisman and Scott.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to, Councillor Skatzheim had some more documentation information on Victoria's proposed ban on single-use plastic bags. So we wanted to get those to staff directly. I don't know if you want to speak to any of the specifics in the documents you forwarded to council?
Thank you, through the chair. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The only thing missing was the legal opinion that Surfrider provided that's now been circulated separately. So I think this gives, a good step forward for staff. There's no need to recreate the wheel. There's some good building blocks here to look at.
So further to that, I just wanted to suggest that at this point, I recognize that this issue is with staff to come back to council with a recommendation of some sort or some information. However, in the realm of public engagement, and I would like to send a letter, I would like to have staff send a letter to retailers, major grocery retailers, informing them that this is council is potentially considering a ban, to give them a heads up ahead of time and see what they might offer to, talk to their corporate headquarters, because we could get some information back in this period of investigation. I'd rather do it sooner than later than have staff do a bunch of work and come back and then we find out corporately there are issues. So I was wondering if we could send a letter just informing the major retailers that council is considering a ban on single-use plastic bags of less than 2.25 millimeters in thickness of polyethylene, and just, you know, have that dialogue.
Thank you, Councillor Nishman. Councillor, go ahead, Mr. President.
Through the chair, I think that letter should come from the mayor.
From the mayor? Okay.
Yeah, if council's considering it, we don't want to confuse the point that it's some decision of council that staff's acting on, that it's the mayor.
Okay.
Thank you. And speaking order, we have Councillor Hathaway here.
Thanks, and I concur with that. We haven't made a decision. So to send a letter out to store owners and get them all in a panic saying, well, here's what we're looking at doing. I think what we would need to do is look at it, if that's what we decide to do, build that timeline into implementation, as opposed to doing it now, because we haven't made any decisions. So we haven't brought this to council,
No.
We haven't debated it, we haven't done any of that yet,
No.
so I'm just thinking it might be premature to do any kind of letter.
But it is, so through the chair, it is, so it's at staff though, it's part of the investigation process, because I just don't know corporately what retailers are going to have to do. So okay, maybe it's more of a letter looking for information of what their corporate headquarters might supply to them.
Oh, I'm just going to beg the question then, what about the public?
Well, and the public, like, you know, that we could do I don't know, that's getting into specifics.
We need to decide something first before we start actioning it, and we haven't decided yet. That's just my point.
Good point.
Okay, I'll do my own outreach then, that's fine.
Okay, we've got a speaking order. Everybody gets to get their 2 cents worth in here. Councillor Brewer, you're next, and then Mayor Formosa.
Yeah, Councillor Hathaway said the same word I wanted to use. I think it is premature. And I'll go back to what I mentioned when it first came to us. I'd like to lean on Victoria a little bit. I don't think it's come back to their council yet. Presumably they're even going to have their own legal opinion done up. I really don't want to task staff with this. If we can lean on Victoria and find out some more information from them. And really, if we want to engage the community on this, we need to engage the public just as much, if not more, than the retailers and the business community on this one. And although I appreciate the passion of wanting to get out on this and get moving on it, I think we do need to do it right and consider it more deliberately through a staff report, and ideally leaning on the work that Victoria will end up doing rather than task our staff with it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brewer. Mayor Formosa, and then Councillor Scatchman.
Yeah, so a number of issues. I think what Councillor, speak for her, is trying to do is communicate with the users or the implementers that this may be coming up as a communication tool, and that if they know it may be coming, maybe they can offer some input prior to us making a decision. I think that's kind of where she's going. The other issue is, the chicken and the egg. We haven't made a decision, but we don't want to make a decision. We should get our staff report. And then, now we have a staff report. We don't want to say yes to it and then go to the public and ask them what they think. We want to go to the public prior to making a decision. So I think that's what she's trying to wrestle with here. So I'm just going to leave that there. There are, the staff report's going to tell us a lot of things. What about biodegradable bags? What about, laws and bylaws in other jurisdictions? If there is implemented an amount of money that you can pay at the till, where does that money go to? Back to the retailer? Because he's going to say, well, I've paid for the bags, and this is a deterrent so that people, they don't want to pay for it, so they'll bring their own cloth bags. Or is that somehow a bylaw that we could create that says, no, that money is maybe, we deem it to be 5 cents, 3 cents to the bag, and 2 cents to our climate action plan. I mean, these are all the things we need to talk about. And so I would like to see the report, and then based on that report, the outreach to the public and to the affected business people. The other thing was, I did get a phone call from a local PhD who I turned over to Madam Clerk and said she was going to turn it over to Mr. Thor Hurtig, who actually did a PhD on this. And he's a teacher at BIU, who read the newspaper and called me and said, you know what, I did a thesis on my doctorate all about this stuff, your laws, your rules, this, that, and I want to help my community. I'm new here, and I will be a resource for free to your people. So I called Madam Clerk. She said, great. She took the numbers. She turned it over to Burdick. So he will be a resource for us. So I think there's a bit of work to do here yet. And yeah, I just await the report, and then we'll, for sure we have to talk to the public. Like there's, you know, I've got a lot of phone calls from people from that article going, hey, what are you doing? I use those bags, I recycle, I use them for my garbage. My own staff, geez, you know how many broken bottles of wine you're going to get? Because, you know, the weight of wine and paper bags won't work, and other, you know, some citizens and such. But I believe it's the right thing to do. We just got to go about it the right way. And patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Kasha.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I think in Victoria, they did get a lot of support from the local Surfrider Vancouver Island chapter, who actually did do a survey, and they, you know, they themselves had spoken to retailers and so forth. So I think that Surfrider can be a resource as well as Victoria Council, because they, when they presented to council in Victoria, they already had a lot of information, and they've gone out to the public already and done a campaign. So we can reach out to them as well.
Thank you very much. Hearing no further comments, I will just try to say that we are now looking for staff for a report, and at this point in time, we're not sending out any letters. Is that what I understand?
Yep.
Correct. Thank you very much. New business. Item 7.1. So wait a minute, we have 6.3. We don't want to bypass that. We have an IPFP implementation from Councillor Leishman we have to talk.
Thank you, Chair. So just to bring this forward, of course, our integrated community sustainability plan, we completed the actual plan last August. I was at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Sustainable Communities Conference a few weeks ago, and was able to talk to the consultant for the Whistler Center of Sustainability, who has said, oh, are you going to do the implementation part of the ICSP? So subsequently they sent an email just letting us know that there are some dates available in April if we wanted to bring the consultants that we used for the ICSP to finish off that piece, which might tie in well with a roundtable on sustainability. I wasn't really sure what the roundtables on our strategic priorities, or strategic community priorities, was going to look like, but they've detailed from their original RFP what their implementation of the ICSP piece could look like. So I just wanted to bring that forward, and I'll pass it on to the CAO to see if that's something that we could do, because actually while the CAO was away, we had of course a presentation from the Climate Action Group that's started up locally. So they've expressed an interest in understanding what council is going to do in terms of the action. So it might be a good tie-in, and they maybe could facilitate that. So the sustainability group, I mean, the Whistler Center group, I mean.
So we're not seeing any hands up. I'm just going to ask you. Oh, we have a hand up. Yes, Mayor.
So I actually had a visit from Jack Anderson, Cynthia Barnes, and Carrie, her better half, Cynthia's partner, I believe it's her partner, and that's the group you were talking about that want to be if you look at page 22 of our ISICP, it states in there that we talk about engaging the greater public in a committee to try and help us move this thing along. And so, they're looking for $3,000. They have a application into our something.
CFO.
No.
Grant Aid.
And what they want the money for is for 3 speakers. And so I said, folks, here's what I would do if I was you. Is I would go through our, sustainability plan, our SP plan, and I would do a community plan, a business plan, on what it is your group think that they can do in order to, you know, engage the public, train the public, get people thinking correctly, low-hanging fruits, all these things they were talking about, put it in the form of a business plan. This is what our committee can do for you, as well as our city is doing things. You know, we're aware of the plan. You know, we're changing boilers, we're changing light systems, we're changing, you know, we're creating docking stations, we're looking at our vehicles. So we're doing, you know, what we can. And I said, you know, if I was you folks, I would be creating that plan. And they said to me, it's exactly what we want to do, but these consultants can help us and will help us create that plan on what it is we think collectively we need to do. And so, you know, it's the chicken and the egg, right? But they seem to have their act together. It is part of our particular plan. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, there has to be an attitude change with people when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And, you know, we are, you know, we're going to do what we do as council. I wasn't part of that whole system. Some of yous were. You wanted community involvement. So here they are saying we want to be involved, we want to help you, and we want to do our thing. So I don't know where they are in that application. Gas tax money, that's what it's for. Although we can do other things with it now, and I explained that to them, that it's, you know, those monies now have a lot of other eyes looking at them. But, you know, you guys want to go down this, and collectively we went down this road. Here's a group, give them a shot. Let them fly at it. And it's part of the overall picture anyway. So, you know, otherwise they're going to get discouraged and go away. So I don't know how or what. But.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just before we get to you, Tom, we'll go to Councillor Lee.
I definitely wasn't trying to discourage that at all. In fact,
No, I wasn't saying you were.
Okay, so I was suggesting that this actually is the final piece of our plan, of our sustainability plan, and we could invite that group to participate in, as well as any other members of the public could participate in sort of an implementation workshop on how to set timelines and and that's what the consultants that helped formulate the plan, that's what they're saying is the last step, is to put timelines, go after the low-hanging fruit, and set a set of goals in place. And then I don't know if there's a mechanism for a non-council appointed group to be tackling that. I'm not sure what that, but that would be a good discussion to have with the consultants and with council as a whole, I think, is what that looks like moving forward.
Thank you very much. Just before we get to you, Councillor Salzcock, Tom.
Yeah, if I may, just on this topic that a lot of us were involved in, is, yes, I agree with Councillor Leishman, is that we actually spent essentially 3/4 of the allocated budget of $50,000 to come up with an ICSP, and we had some monies left over that could have been used at the time for that implementation. But after spending, I think, 10 or 11 months of, half council being part of the sustainability committee, there was a fair amount of burnout at that point, and I think it's probably been quite good to take that time frame and have it introduced now to say, hey, maybe this is a good time to bring in implementation. And so I would agree with the direction where you're going. But what I would like to say is, having been here when that last committee was or that group was talking about what they'd like to do, you often hear words about doing more studies or maybe some more plans. And I think the success of the ICSP that this city has is we have a plan of actions, and the focus has to be on the action. So if a group comes out there, maybe what our rebuttal is great, we love your support, but what's an action that you'd like to take on? And so I'd like to see us all moving forward with the actions that are in here. I think going through that implementation may allow us to work with those community groups to the round tables to assess what actions we need to take on, but starting to do more plans, more studies. We're just gonna have more paper that's gonna sit on shelf, and we've got a good document right there to go to town, and fortunately, we have a 100% increase in the planning department. So I would agree with that, Director.
Thank you. Councillor Southcott?
Thank you. I think maybe the Director of Planning just answered my question, but the question was, did we already pay for that implementation exercise? We didn't, so we still have to pay for that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could, at the risk of being a bit wet blanket, just because it's offered doesn't mean we have to buy it. We have a very experienced staff who are actually more experienced than the consultant. The consultant was available to do it. So I have concerns about whether it's good value for money. We are going to get on with implementing it, and part of, and I'll take responsibility for perhaps not communicating, a obvious vehicle that may advance all forms of sustainability is the Sustainability Roundtable. And that's exactly the forum where someone who's interested, like these three people who came to see the mayor, could say, we'll take this part. My concern is that the action list that's in the ICSP is a good list. And it says Tom Knight will do this and this and this and this. And it has very little of the community will get around this. The community will change. It's a municipal action list when we're trying to change a community. So you can hear my emotion. I had a pretty strong input that I think that's a good list to have, but that's not going to change the community. That's going to be a community watching now Tom and Jason do something on behalf of the community. I think what you want to do is change the community in accordance with the objectives of the ICSP. So we'll end up with a staff action list if we spend that money to implement it, I believe.
Thank you. Councillor Burrow.
A couple of you spoke to the points I wanted to make. The ICSP does have a whole list of action items on it. We just need to start implementing more of them and hold ourselves accountable to working on them. And it's not just the city's plan, it's the community's plan, so we need to find a way to pull the community in.
That's the point I'm making,
and hold the
Chair.
community accountable, and that's where we need to pull them in. There's people who are excited to get involved. We need to find a way to get them involved, whether it's a quarterly check-in as a round table or what it is, and say, here's where we got to on these action items. We're gonna do these three first, let's wait on those. But we don't have that in place right now. I think that's maybe the frustration we're getting from different circles is we need staff to action those, we need the community to action those, we need to find a way to pull everyone together. Maybe it's a round table, maybe it's pulling others in. I don't think, we did have an enthusiastic group present, but we don't need another plan presented. They want to action a bunch of things which are already outlined in our plan. We just need to make those happen.
Through the chair, can I make a recommendation or just an idea? Because I'll tell you, sometimes I feel like I'm at the Sierra Club every time I come here. It's not like it used to be, right? So we're doing a lot of this new wave stuff. And I'm fine, you can see, right? I'm fine, I'm surfing, I'm here. But I would like to move this along and I think that we should take the people on council that were, I'm feeling a little red, but take the people on council that were working that understand this very well and just form a little subgroup. Pull these people in, have a meeting in the committee room, talk with these people, tell them, relax, we're going to get there. Or, the round table's coming, or I'm telling you, they want to do something. They're excited, and what I resonated on is they talked to me, that we got to get the community involved. We know from us what we can do. Electric vehicles, stations, solar, boilers, lighting, and we're doing that. But if we can change the mindsets, tell the people that they shouldn't be burning firewood. I ain't saying that to them, but they won't vote for you, right? But it's true, everybody likes cutting their wood, but you go for a walk, you see the haze. And then, right? I don't mind it, but lots of people do mind it. And climate is an issue, you know, I lived on the beach, I watched the ocean come up. I lived on level waterfronts, this stuff's real. So why don't we get these people, somebody get a hold of them, I can give you their names, Melanie has them, get a little subcommittee together, talk about it, and say we're gonna have this round table, and so that people know something's gonna happen, and such, and carry on with let's build a university or a school or something too, right?
Thank you, Worship. I'm glad.
I would like to see that happen. Like, get these people, they're excited, bring them here, right?
Councillor
Excuse me.
Salka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have been attending their meetings, a number of them, probably not all of them, and specifically with the intention of encouraging them and also helping them with the immense learning curve that it is to finding out what actually is happening already in our circle that you've itemized, but also how some of these parts fit together and how process actually works. Because, and the learning curve is, you know, being I consider myself a newbie counselor, you know, I'm very fresh on the learning curve experience, and so I have quite a bit of compassion for people like this who are struggling. And so the first thing they saw was, oh, we'll get consultants, but we've already done that. And they weren't exactly aware, and so they're leaping in at a point where the train's already moving.
But to their defense, I don't think it was so much just that. It was they wanted to like have a what you call the community come and listen to the speakers, and then community involvement, and they're trying to work on a deadline that I'm telling them it's only 2 months away. Like, guys, that's rushing. You're asking us to do something, you know. But they feel that they have to wait another year if they don't. Somebody needs that speaks their language to pull them aside and say, we're on it, you got us, we've done all this stuff, and it's going to happen. I think it could be really healthy for the people who sat on that committee to pull these people together and corral that excitement so that they really think that we're not doing anything, and we all know we are. But you know, and they're trying to do something by Earth Day. That's what I believe. Yeah. So, you know, I told them I'd talk to you guys about it, so here we are.
Thank you, Worship. Where does that leave us, gang? Councillor Leishman.
Through the chair, April is Earth Month, actually. In fact, this year we've gone from a day to a week to a month this year. So I don't know if we can perhaps convene some sort of sustainability roundtable in April sometime. That would be a great step, and then we can, in the meantime, we can contact them. And
you know them.
Yeah, I know them all. Yeah.
And Councillor Southcott speaks their language.
He totally speaks their language. He's more fluent than any of us.
Sierranese.
If I could be a bit pragmatic, through the chair, I think, you know, I owe you back an implementation plan to speak about more detail on the roundtables. I think to convene a roundtable, and perhaps sustainability is the first one you want, to convene it in Earth Month, maybe at the end, but to convene it, like, is a reasonable objective.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Make it so. I'm
happy.
Make it so.
Thank you.
Are you fine with that, Madam Clerk? Okay. We've got the direction we require. Moving along. Move to new business, item 7.1, agriculture and home-based business regulation. Councillor Brewer.
So this is fitting in light of the groundswell presentation we had. This is something that came to me from citizen with some good points. Our zoning and the home-based business regulation prevents someone on a property less than an acre from having sort of an agriculture-related business on their property. So I'd like to suggest we should look at making some changes that would allow someone, if they want to have a small greenhouse or sell some produce out of their backyard, if it's less than an acre, that they would be able to do so. And again, looking to Victoria, they've just started implementing some neat, I forget what they call it now, urban garden or urban agriculture program, but there's some good lessons there. They're trying to come up with some different changes in their zoning and their home-based regulations to allow that. So I'd like maybe staff to come back with some ideas on changes to particularly in this example, just being able to have, what is it, a rural home-based business on lots that are less than 1 acre.
Thank you, Councillor Brewer. Mr. Knight's going to shed a little bit more light on that.
Just through the chair, this is something that I had staff do when I was part of the Comox Valley Regional District in terms of increasing your commercial capacity of an agricultural, because as you see on the handout before you, in this zoning for this city, we have very limited capacity of somebody actually marketing their own produce. So it's something that's already been done, and I know that Jason is quite interested in doing it after he gets through the other 11 things on his action list. Oh, and by the way, there is a statistic that says the most productive farm is not one of those large multi-acre ranches, but it's actually a half-acre property that's doing organic farming. And that kind of goes a little against what the Agricultural Land Commission always says, because they're always advocating big parcels of land that remain big parcels and not break them up. But what's going on in North America is quite the opposite. So that might be another thing to look at, is parcel size as part of this component.
Makes sense.
Through the chair, earlier in the meeting, council decided to monitor what Victoria is doing on another issue. Is this analogous?
Well, on this one, I think this is a relatively simple change in my mind, in the specific item. But I do like what they did. They went out to the public with an idea, how can we increase agriculture within the city? Came up with a whole bunch of ideas. This is one of them. This would be I guess one specific change to allow commercial gardens and small properties within the city. So I guess there's pros and cons to going through that whole process for one simple change versus implementing the wholesale review and public engagement. And I'd like to see this change made in short order, so that really, if someone within the city wants to start doing it through this next growing season, we can maybe have it in place.
So through the chair, I'm hearing quite a difference in scale, so let's not make it too big.
So are you fine with that, Mr. Fraser, or we're going to limit the scale?
I work for council, I'm just asking.
So my suggestion would be this simple change, get working on that, and I think what we'll see come out of the food assessment again and food policy council, that could be a broader engagement process, which could probably come back to committee for discussion.
Thank you. Do we have the direction we need?
I'm just going to make sure I do have it. So what you're looking for is to staff to report on permitting rural home-based businesses in lots less than an acre. So you're looking for a zoning bylaw amendment, and we can look into options and recommendations and that kind of thing.
And through the chair,
we can look at Victoria
public
maybe to
participation, because neighborhoods might go, gee, if we got a little farm here, we're going to have bears and.
If through the chair, at the very least, the public hearing process takes us there. At the very
It
least.
would be a zoning amendment. Through the chair, you also just heard Mr. Fraser commit to maybe the roundtable on sustainability in Earth Month, and maybe this would also be a topic of interest at that discussion.
Thank you. I think we have the direction we need. And Jason, just a warning. You're young, you're starting out. You're working under someone whose hair is turning gray. I heard earlier burnout. Be careful.
He's only 29.
Okay, moving on.
It's me.
Completely dark.
I know.
7.2, Airbnb requirements for business license. Councilor Brewer.
So thank you, Chair. And I guess it's not just specific to Airbnb, there's other online platforms that people are renting out properties. But I think, not sure where I want to go with this. I just want to confirm that they do indeed require a business license, which I'm sure they do, and then they would require insurance and such. It's become quite an issue in some of the larger centers. This is just one of those issues that I think I'd like to be proactive on and make sure we have our communication in place, make sure we don't have any regulatory gaps. So people who are renting out short-term accommodation, they're classed as B&Bs in our regulations, so they do require a business license. They're subject to the inspections that would be required for the business license. I think the concern is if we start getting to the point where we have really low vacancy rates, there could be impacts there for long-term rentals. And there's been concern on the part of hotel, motel owners that there's maybe a clawing back of business opportunities for them. So I'm not sure. There's about 12 of them I noticed just hopping on the Airbnb site within municipal boundaries. There's some in the RD as well. I don't know whether staff do regularly look to see if someone's operating a B&B, whether they have business licenses or not. If that's something we should do, unless someone complains. I know that's usually the case.
Through the chair, in general, bylaw enforcement is complaint driven.
Right.
And I think the director will confirm that the zoning bylaw did not foresee Airbnbs. So there's B&Bs and places that aren't B&Bs. And the length of stay, because one of the challenges, my understanding with the Airbnbs is it seems to be just a transient once in a while, and then it's a successful business. And as you say, all of a sudden it starts to draw down available accommodations for long-term rental, and it creates its own problem. So who would have an Airbnb that wouldn't try to optimize the rentals? The intention, I understand in most Airbnbs, is while the owner is away for some weeks at a time, they rent them out. But there are many Airbnbs across the country now that are dedicated just to that. So I think it's worthwhile to check.
Thank you, through the chair. I believe that our B&B bylaw specifically mentions that a B&B cannot have a kitchen. And many of these rentals do, like it's a full suite or at the bottom of a house. So I think there definitely needs to be some look at that. And as Councilor Brewer said, there's VRBO, there's all kinds of things. And I do, again, Victoria and also Vancouver have been working cooperatively with Airbnb because it's obviously a much larger issue there. They have all kinds of things to deal with, not the least of which is, there's a lot of backlash from strata councils and so forth. And I surfed over to Airbnb happens to have a public policy blog, and they've actually entered into an agreement with Illinois where they're collecting hotel tax. So, as the hotel owners and motel owners, one of the arguments is that B&Bs are not paying the MRDT, and I know that that's partly because I believe it's minimum 3 rooms or something, but some of the Airbnbs, have that. So they do seem to be working proactively with communities. So they Airbnb themselves are a resource as well.
Your Worship?
Yeah, you don't want to lose sight of your hotel, motel owners or your larger taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them to stay here viably. And so, trying to create as a level of a playing field as we can to these types of new social media businesses that will change the landscape of, or can change the landscape, gain in popularity to make your people happy, be popular, can have huge effects, and I don't own a hotel in this city, so I can talk to this stuff. Other things I can't because I have some very strong views on things that I am involved in that it's going this way. And people, when they really stop and think about some of the issues, they don't. This is cheaper and convenient. We have a moral obligation to our society, our community, and so things that we can do to keep as much of a level playing field as we can, I think it's incumbent on us to do that and to keep our people safe. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councilor Burke?
So I think my suggestion would be similar with some other issues. What we've done is put a one-pager at least on our website so people are aware what the requirements are given our current regulations. And then maybe info from staff, whether Airbnb, like you said, with a kitchen, the way I read our regulation there, it's not consistent.
No.
in which case so there's a problem there. You wouldn't be able to get a business license if you're renting out accommodation, and it includes kitchen facilities.
So through the chair, just you're wanting something on the website regarding the regulations for what?
I forget what they're
For
called.
normal B&Bs?
Yeah,
or-
B&Bs,
Okay, so that's all
short-term
governed
accommodation.
under the zoning bylaw?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, so there may be stuff already on there already, but we'll check and
It's
see.
an education awareness
Yep.
piece on that front. I don't want to take away from entrepreneurial spirit of what people are doing, but like the mayor says, it does need to be a level playing field, and we need to consider, there's a reason, partly a reason we have business licenses is to do the inspections to make sure everything meets other regulatory requirements, right?
Thank you. Councillor Spezia.
Thank you through the chair, and I think that there's all different customers. There's people who, will never stay in a motel, they'll only stay in a hotel, and there's people that like the bed and breakfast experience, and there's, people who like, something a little different. So, I take the mayor's point that, we want to make sure that the existing accommodators are, it's fair, and I think that's, that's fair. But it's definitely, there's a certain customer that will use Airbnb, and there's customers that just won't. That's not their thing. And some people like camping, and some people don't. So there's all sorts of.
If I could, through the chair, I think council would understand the fact that you would go on a social media site to book an Airbnb is not an issue that the city has contention with. Because of course you can do that with almost any accommodations in the country now. But I think what I'm hearing for staff is to do a background there that says to operate a B&B, this is a requirement and this is a restriction, and probably a clarification in there to include Airbnbs and online booking as well, in total. So we have one set of rules for B&Bs regardless of how the person accesses.
So just through the chair, what is an Airbnb? I've never really heard about it. So you're going to be out of your house for 2 weeks?
No.
No, what is it?
Through the chair, if I may, it's just another way of booking accommodation. People, if you have a suite in your house and you don't have a renter for it, you can rent it out on short term. It's just so you don't have to have your own website for bookings and stuff. The Airbnb takes the payment from the people.
So it's like a B&B without maybe all the other stuff.
And you can have like a room in your house, or you can have a full-on suite, or you can have various travel trailers.
If I could, when I visit my daughter, I rent a full all-up 2-story Airbnb house.
It's just a booking accommodation website, really.
It depends what they're offering, but it can be, and my understanding of that, it was set up that it was a permanent operation. So you can have extremes.
Yeah. I mean, there's other ones, VRBO, vacation rentals by owner.
Well, they should be held to the same standards as all the other B&Bs.
That's
Period.
Don has a point that he needs to get in.
Yes, to get away from the focus on how people make a booking, the focus should be on land use, and there's very few zones in this community that actually allow tourist accommodation. Very few. Under tourist accommodation, you can have the B&Bs. But really, residential suites and single family, you're not allowed having Airbnbs, and so we'll be willing to support the clerk in preparing this and getting the actual facts out of what is permitted and what isn't.
Pardon me.
He said support.
Let's go to Councillor Gadget.
Through the chair, and I think Airbnbs are wonderful because there are certain times of the year where we just simply do not have enough accommodation. You know, a Cathalmu, I mean, when we had, what was it, Cathalmu, BC Bike Race, July 1st, and it was also, something else was going on. I mean, we had thousands of people here, and we just don't, we need those alternate accommodations, so it's an important part of.
Level playing field.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think seeing this on the agenda today, Councillor Brewer, and you brought it forward. And as the CEO has said, it's been complaint driven as far as our bylaws. So how did this come to your attention, and what brought it here today? What was the major concern?
I've heard from a couple people with respect to, as the Director of Planning points out, land use and activity and people coming and going, and G, do they have a business license?
Very good. Thank you.
So through the chair, am I hearing direction that staff will post the requirements and information for B&Bs on our website? We made, and I think we have something downstairs already in the brochure thing.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that, see if it needs to be updated, and then we'll get it on the website. Okay?
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving along. I think this may be our last item on the agenda. 7.3, power from drinking water. Councilor Brooke.
That's quite a subject header there.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Power through this.
Just something that was sent our way via email, I think,
Yeah.
and it's been discussed before whether presumably we're going to be replacing our main water main at some point, and whether there's any opportunity for tying that in and generating electricity from it. I know some of it's not necessarily proven technology, but is it something we could look at relatively easily? There's been, we heard from Cranberry Lake Ratepayers Society even talking about could we do something when that's replaced to bring flow into Cranberry Lake if it's warranted. I know that's a can of worms. I did the same, very big can, maybe a drum of worms. But it might be some, if it's feasible, I don't know if the scope and the scale of that main replacement is enough to warrant it, but just something for discussion.
Thank you, Councilor Brewer. Councilor Hathaway, and then.
Thank you.
Oh, who? Tor wants to get in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and it may be before Councilor Brewer was on council, that we did take a look at this, and I'm recalling that the information was all in camera. I don't think it ever came out, so I hesitate to say a whole lot, but.
If I can, through the chair. So the thing that was discussed in camera is not the same as what
Not the
is being
same.
floated here, and that's why Mr. Burtick's able to speak to it.
Oh, okay. Floated here, good word.
If I may, through the chair, I'll just be brief on this. What the Portland system incorporates is a turbine within the water main. Just remember the size of Portland compared to the volume that the city uses. And to create power from water, you need either head or you need volume. In this case, when we're talking about the trunk main, we have neither. But there is, we did have a preliminary report that was brought to us when we first started talking about the water main. And they said the costs at that time were not feasible. We still can review it prior to prior to finalizing our design. We're not, we have a design on the table, but we can review that just to see if it's warranted. We could look at drawing some power to run a few operations at the reservoir, or perhaps putting it back in the grid, but there's probably not enough power in there to put it back into the grid at this point.
Just while you're standing, Councilor, or Mr. Bertig, quick question that comes to mind. What's the deadline for that second application that went in on the trunk main?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have provided input for that, so our hat is in the ring for the next round.
Can't happen soon enough. Councilor Brewer?
And my reason for bringing it forward is if it's even within the realm of having a reasonable ROI and it could be incorporated, great. If not, it's fine, right? Just something to consider.
Yeah, we do continue to look at, things like the feasibility of not only the turbines, we look at our PRVs. We had the other, there's other potential for creating power from water, but solar panels too within our facilities. But, as the incentives come out, or as the cost of doing that type of thing comes down, then obviously it makes the business case a lot better.
Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Sutton.
I hate to ask another question, but any chance of, Chair, any chance of downstream from the tank? I mean, if there are big enough pipes downstream, because they definitely have head down.
Once they hit Cranberry Street, the diameters get smaller. So again, we don't have the potential for head or volume You know, there is some smaller potential at our PRVs that we could take off, use, because it's not a perpetual motion energy creator. You're going to have to take out some energy, so you're going to lose some pressure, which could impact our system if you start taking away and taking away from that power. But we're talking about a small amount of hydro at this time.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our agenda for today. We'll go to questions. And questions from the press?
No, thanks.
Mr. Galinsky, you have any questions?
No question, Mr. Chair. Thank you for asking.
Anybody else?
Roger?
Questions?
No, sir.
No, hearing none.
I just wonder who that handsome-looking fellow is sitting beside our director of planning.
Yeah, no
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Gow. I know most of you, and so I'm very excited to be here. And thank you very much.
Not too embarrassed at all.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, call for adjournment. Moved by Councilor Cassidy, seconded by Councilor Brewer. All in favor?
Woo! Stop being me.
6:13.
Wasn't that a cure song?
Thank you.